G'day legends, I hope you're all fantastic. This absolute monster of an amp is the Hughes and Kettner Coreblade. I definitely can't hold it like that for too long, so I'll kind of hold it like this. This amp belongs to one of my students. Shout out to Vinny for letting me borrow this, and he let me have it for a couple of weeks and just kind of wanted to know my thoughts on the amp. So of course I'm going to make a video for the whole world to see it. I've never demoed any H&K stuff here on the channel, and I don't have a lot of experience using them outside of the fact that, I know Alex Lifeson used some H&K stuff for a long time. Being a Rush fan, they've always kind of interested me for that reason. But this thing is a curious beast. 4-channel, all tube, with a whole bunch of kind of digital add-ons on here. The knobs in particular are quite interesting in that they are encoders that save their position per channel. So you can dial in whatever you want on the clean channel with the knobs anywhere. And the amp will remember those settings. For example, mid-range all the way up, bass all the way down. Then you go to the next channel and you want to use the drive mode with the mids all the way down and the bass and the treble cranked. The amp's like, Leon, that is totally cool. I can do that for you. Do you want different settings on the ultra modes? Because we can do that as well. In fact, you can save all those settings and pop them onto a USB stick that you insert into the amp. So the idea, I'm sure H&K had at the time, was this could be the ultimate backline amp, or if you own one, you just save your settings onto a USB stick, you show up to a venue that's got a Coreblade as backline, you pop your USB in, and you go. On the back, there's a bunch of extra stuff as well. All your speaker outputs, effects loops, you've got a little noise gate threshold control on here. It's got MIDI, so everything is MIDI programmable and controllable. I'm fairly certain, let's come back over here, that you can actually send MIDI CC messages to this to control the onboard digital effects. There's a digital reverb, there's a delay, and there's a modulation section. Now, I've been trying to get the modulation section to work, and it's just doing nothing for me. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or there's something up with this particular amp, but we're actually not going to hear that. We will hear the reverb and the delay, and then the core sounds in here. So there's a clean channel, which sounds clean, very, very clean, as we'll hear in a second. A drive channel, which is your kind of Marshall-inspired crunch. Then there's 2 ultra modes on here. Now, they did another amp called the Switchblade, which has a very similar layout to this, but I think it's got a lead mode instead of the kind of Ultra 2 mode on here. I haven't tried it. Hopefully I'll try it at some point in the future, but for now, let's hear this massive beast of an amp. I should have mentioned as well, it's 100 watts, and I'm just going to be running the 8 ohm output into my Fractal X-Load and my free cab IR, which is linked in the video description. And let's go. Let's start with the clean channel. I've pretty much got all the knobs at noon. I'm on the split neck pickup of this PRS DGT in drop D, and it sounds like this. That is generally a very, very clean clean channel on there. I had to turn the gain all the way up and to turn the boost on just to get that kind of grit going on there. You also notice that the reverb, it sounds okay. That's nothing remarkable to me. It doesn't really sound like a real spring reverb. In fact, it just kind of reminds me of every kind of spring-style digital reverb in just about any amp that came out in this era. It reminds me like the reverb in the old Marshall MG series, but I'm pretty happy just turning that one all the way down to get started. You also kind of notice that like clicky pick attack on there, sort of no matter where I set the EQ, which is kind of what I don't like in multi-channel high gain amp clean channels. It's a very like metal amp clean. It isn't an afterthought. I don't want to sort of discredit the designers. I know people put a lot of work into this, but that sounds like something that you would use in conjunction with some other pedals in front of it and in the back end to kind of get a clean sound. It's very neutral. It doesn't have a lot of character in there. So you can either see that as a big positive or as a bit of a drawback on there. So what's interesting about this amp is if you switch over to one of the other modes, these knobs are actually encoders and they will save the kind of settings that you had on the previous channel. So you could go from that very, very clean sound to a totally different setting on the drive or the ultra channel. So let's just get onto the good stuff and go to the drive channel. This is where I've got it set at the moment. Again, another drawback of this design is the knobs no longer reflect the actual settings on there. You kind of have to tweak them to go into edit mode. But let's just have a listen to where this is at. That's more like it. There's some satisfying crunch sounds in there. You can hear that's very clearly inspired by a kind of modded Marshall style thing. Loads and loads of gain on tap. Again, if I had a criticism here, it's kind of like I want the gain around like 9, 10 o'clock on there, but doing that, clearly the bright cap value they've used makes the guitar really, really clicky. It's almost like a kind of plexi style thing. And you can compensate for that with the treble, but it's not quite the same. I actually really dig that AC/DC style tone in there. Again, it's definitely got that kind of early 80s Marshall thing going on, and you would have noticed how powerful the presence and resonance controls are. What I'll actually do is I'll turn both of them all the way down, then I'll bring the presence all the way up, find the sweet spot, and do the same with the resonance. Very, very powerful controls on there. You know, most guitar amplifiers, the presence control kind of does nothing until you get to a certain point. Then it does everything in a small range, and then it does nothing more. On here, these are tapered, so it actually has quite a nice smooth range from 0 to full. I just kind of find on most of these modes somewhere around 10 or 11 o'clock with the presence seems to work best. Let's go over to the Ultra 1 mode. So all the EQ, presence, and resonance is at noon. And I've got the gain on 0. Like, I have not turned the knob up at all, and you get this. Pretty ridiculous. I don't know if I really, really like that or I really, really dislike that. It's almost like a caricature of what someone thinks a heavy metal sound should be. It's pretty stiff feeling, but it's super tight. That low end is massively exaggerated, and there are just buttloads of gain on there. It's pretty unique though. You know, it sort of has that early 2000s nu metal sound on tap, and that's without even scooping the mids out on there. It's just so much gain. And again, kind of runs into that thing where whatever bright cap value they're using, there is this clicky resonant thing on the pick attack that I don't really love. But at the same time, like I said, it's unique. It's so tight. I wouldn't say that really sounds like, you know, a 5150 or a dual rectifier or anything else. I'm actually kind of struggling to think of something else that I've tried that has that distortion sound. Maybe it will come to me. Anyway, I've swapped over to the Ultra 2 mode on here, which is probably designed as the high gain lead channel on here. It's a lot smoother and kind of tubbier sounding. So Ultra 1 is the giant chungus mode. This one is really nice for playing high gain lead stuff. And we heard some of the built-in delay on there. Now, this particular amp has a modulation section. You've got chorus, flanger, phaser, and tremolo. Reading the manual, it seems like they are mixed in parallel. So that's kind of nice if it means that your amp, the kind of raw tone is never going through AD conversion on there, but I actually can't get the modulation on this particular amp to work. I don't know if it's busted or I'm doing something wrong. You know, 50-50 chance either way. Actually, probably more like 70-30 in the favor of me being an absolute moron there. The delay is totally serviceable and the reverb is okay. Do these effects warrant taking up this much space on this amp? Absolutely not. I feel like they're one of those things like when you go to buy a new car and you pay for the car and they're like, wait, you can get your windows tinted for only this much more. Wait, you can get the optional little kind of chrome wheels. You can do all these add-ons that do not really add that much value, but you end up paying a bunch more for. So to me, this effects section, I know what they were trying and I will give them props for that, but you could just get a Boss pedal to do any of those things. And you could do that when this amp came out. It's not like this thing came out in the mid 80s and it was so far ahead of its time for having built-in effects. I could totally do without that built-in section on there and having the programmable 4-channel amp where you can have each of these knobs wherever you want, MIDI recall them. I nearly said middly recall them. Maybe that should be a thing. Middly recall them wherever you like them. If you took all the effort that went into those effects and you say put some LED indicator lights on this, I feel like they could have massively improved that. What is interesting though is, you can save your presets and just pop them on a USB stick. So I guess maybe the hope with this line of amps was, hey, you know what? If you're a touring musician, particularly in Europe, you just say to your touring company, get me a Coreblade at every venue. You show up with your USB stick, you pop it in, and then you've got your settings on there. That's kind of a cool idea. And there's all the extra features on the back, like there's a kind of tube health check on there. There are all the different speaker output options. There's the effects loop options on there. The fact that it's programmable and there's some really usable sounds in here, I think is awesome. But it is a bit of a swing and a miss on here. Like that clean channel, again, I don't want to say anything on this is bad, but to me, that's a pretty lame clean sound. This Ultra 2 sound is pretty decent if you want the liquid lead thing. The Ultra 1, that's probably the thing that has its most unique character about it. Whether you like that particular character or not is probably a matter of taste, but it does the giant chungus thing on there. And then the drive channel, that's a pretty serviceable 800 style sound in there. Or is it a plexi style sound? I don't know. It's like a generic Marshall thing. I'm not saying generic in a bad way either. You can definitely get some cool sounds out of that. I like that it's got the built-in boost. I like that each channel sort of has its own very distinct flavor. All I can think on this is that maybe they were having a crack. Maybe this was like their kind of moonshot amp and they were like, let's put something out with all these features and we'll see what sticks. I'd love to know your thoughts on that, actually. Is this something that you think maybe H&K or another company should revisit with some modern tech? I guess Diesel did. They've got the VHX, it's a VH4 with a bunch of built-in effects. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts on that. What were your favorite sounds in here? Big shout out to Vinny for letting me borrow this amp. Vinny, I would say, as somebody who's 15, 16, if this was your amp, you're doing very, very well, mate. The fact that you've got all those sounds in there, that drive mode, that can do your 80s hair metal, modded 800 thing really, really well. And then if you want to play a kind of modern metal, the ultra modes are awesome. As you grow up, you probably will be more and more into cleaner sounds, and you kind of realize that that clean sound, it's a bit characterless, and you might want to get more into the Vox thing or more into the Fender thing, but there's loads of options out there, and there is plenty of time to collect all the toys and get all the tones. Anyway, that is it for me for today. My favorite sound was definitely that Ultra One sound in here. So I'm just gonna go giant chungus for the rest of this video. If you like what I'm doing here, links to support me directly in the video description. Let me know your thoughts on the Coreblade in the comment section below. Be good to one another, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.